got my handy dandy notes. Ugh, I've never filmed from home. The lighting's bad here. This camera sucks. Oh, we're live. Here we go. People, I am so sorry. We are having like a Monday. We're having a triple dog dare you Monday. But anyway, we're going to pretend like it's 4 o'clock right on the dot and we're just on time and Steve's not having trouble connecting and everything's great. So welcome to episode 5 of the Dumpling Discussion or the Dumpling Difference Discussion Show. I'm Holly. And we are waiting on my co-host, Steve, which we are hoping is going to be able to get his link to work. It's just a technical day, guys. Sorry. Anyway, today we have with us Ashley Johnson, who is a dumpling coach. And that's what we're here to talk about is dumpling. So Ashley is going to fill us in on everything about dumpling, and I have lots of questions for her. I have 4 pages here, Ashley. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you start out and tell everybody how you got started with dumpling, what led you to dumpling, and what you do for dumpling?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like many people who watch your show, I started as a gig worker. I am a single parent, and so a typical 9 to 5 is very difficult to manage. I've always done some form of gig work over the last 10 years, but in the few years before my business, it was mostly the app work, right? So DoorDash, Shipt, Instacart, you name it. And I would even do those around a part-time job if need be. And then fast forward to 2019, I was just getting frustrated. When I started those apps, it was for flexibility, for extra income. And then we started to see pay cuts and more control and just a frustrating environment. I'm someone who just kind of cares about workers. And so it was very hard to be in that space. I started speaking up about it quite a bit. Matthew Tellis, who you guys probably know, just kept telling me, you need to try dumpling. You would be a good fit for dumpling. You need to try it. And eventually, for some reason, I listened to him, signed up, and didn't even do anything for a couple months. I kind of sat dormant on it for a few months.
I think that's pretty typical.
Yeah. And then I got deactivated from Shipt and, kind of told that story very publicly on national media. And
why did they deactivate you? I don't know that I've heard that story, to be honest.
So I tweeted that their convention, their Beyond conference, whatever they call it, was a little bit out of touch, that we had just suffered a pay cut and they expected us to travel to attend this when we didn't make enough to do so. And, we would have had to pay for tickets and it could impact our availability to get orders when we got back. And so I just kind of told them, this is a bummer. I would love to connect with other shoppers, but you've made this inaccessible for those of us on the West Coast. And within half an hour, I was deactivated. I got an email that I had abused some Facebook group rules. I wasn't even in their Facebook group. Was not ever able to fight it. And so pretty quickly, I was talking to Vice Media and some other places and just kind of sharing how they were as not an employer, right? Because it's independent contracting, but how they were to work for and that it wasn't all the rainbows that they presented is. And I connected with a whole bunch of other workers in similar situations and just kept kind of, alerting people on what the situation is, how customers could help, how shoppers could help, and just having that conversation. And within that, I finally was like, all right, I got to make my business work. I got to make up that income. So started actually trying at my business. And what do you know? That helped, made it work.
Yeah, that helps.
Then just very connected with the community of dumpling shoppers. And so from within that, pandemic hit and dumpling was kind of drowning, right? As all these small tech companies were, especially in groceries, right at the beginning of things. And they said, hey, do you want to come on staff and help us? We need some help. And I'm like, well, I currently don't have childcare. School's gone. So I would love to. And here we are 3 years later. So I came on as a coach, and essentially what the coaching team does is we're business owners ourselves. And so we guide new people through that process and kind of help them brainstorm or have ideas on what to do for their business, or just kind of what we've learned from everyone. We compile that together so that it's an easier process for them. But we are a small company, so now we do, a little bit of everything, help out however we can. At this point, I know probably at least half of our business owners, kind of on like a name basis, which is my favorite part of this job, is just knowing all the people and all their stories, and being able to kind of be their cheerleader.
Well, you guys do a great job at guiding people. I can tell you. I mean, I don't think I've ever asked you a question that you didn't immediately know what the answer was off the top of your head.
It's funny. I was very nervous about that at first, but people tend to have a lot of the same questions, just kind of worded differently. So
yeah, I'm sure.
It's been an interesting journey. I'm like, okay, people ask this a lot. We need to make some sort of content so that we don't have to be awake 24 hours and they can get this information, right? And so that's where a lot of our university has come from, is just what are the things people get stuck on? And now our topic, office hours and all of those things. So it's definitely different to be at a company where we listen to people. Doesn't mean we can always do everything they say, but just to have the conversation and listen. That was
and it's great to be heard.
Yeah.
I mean, when can I call Instacart and talk to somebody that speaks English in my country and will answer me and know what I'm talking about and empathize with me? No,
exactly.
Never.
And when I started my business, that was the biggest thing, is someone had picked up the phone and called me, and I was used to my hour-long chats with the melting ice cream at Instacart. And so I was like, what do you mean you're calling me? How do I matter to you? And yeah, it's so interesting too how much dumpling shoppers have evolved. And in the beginning, it was primarily groceries. People just did groceries around their neighborhood. And now people have become completely creative in their very unique avenues of business. So it's really fun to see all the different ideas people have come up with, and how they've really kind of turned the delivery game into a lot more than that. We have people that put things on airplanes to villages that don't have roads. We have people that put things on boats. And
yeah, it is crazy. There are some crazy stories out there that I've heard from some of the shoppers that it's amazing that they do that.
It's had to make us, of course, evolve right up to meet their needs, but
right. Well, that's one thing that I always do brag about with Dumpling when people ask me about it is, hey, if you are at the store and you're having trouble with an order, you're not calling someone in another country or trying to chat with somebody in another country, who has no idea that, like Steve always says, that Colorado is even a state. They don't even know what that means, and it's hard to even get a live person with most of those companies. So, but with you guys are there all the time. I mean, all the time, except Christmas Day. That's the only day there's somebody not available for an emergency. I mean, if you have a general question, yes, they're going to be off on the weekend. But if you're at the store and you need help, you're getting an answer in a minute. And it's customer service is unparalleled in any other company.
It's also, people are always so surprised that sign up now that kind of are able to do it more independently when they realize that that's the actual staff members,
right.
In total,
you're not just a call center.
Right. In total, there's still less than 20 of us. And so if you sign in for SOS, you need funding at the store on your card. That could be me. That could be a co-founder. That could be an engineer. We all take turns on that. That's how we're able to do more hours. And so people who have just kind of signed up and gotten started and didn't know that part of our story, they're always like, what do you mean I talked to the co-founder yesterday? What are you talking about? That just doesn't make sense to them. And so it's always kind of fun to quiz people on that a little bit. Like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm who you talked to when you wrote in, And so, yeah, our SOS.
Well, and the fact that you started as a shopper and you have your own business doing this also. How many hours do you work at Dumpling compared to your own business?
That's a good question. So since I started at Dumpling, obviously I've had to cut my business down a bit. I just do a few people that I already know. I'm not marketing my business now. I'm not really taking on new customers. But in the span of my business and working here, I've also moved back to my hometown. So that's pretty easy. My friends' parents need help with things. I don't just do groceries. I also do, pet sitting and house cleanings and all sorts of things in that
That
realm.
actually was another question that I had for that. I had that written down also to see what else do
Yeah.
you do within the dumpling realm?
All sorts of things. So, within that, I've got some little old ladies that I kind of help with their errands, or when people go out of town. This morning was crazy because I was feeding someone's cats before logging into work, right? All sorts of things like that. So I do still do that. It's just not an everyday thing like I was prior to working at the company full time. And obviously work from home. So when there is no school, that's easier to manage. But
Right.
yeah, it's so I never would have thought 3 years ago that this is where I would be, where the company would be, where our shoppers would be.
I heard it was a little bit of a rough start about 3 years ago, that a lot of people came over to Dumpling and then they had some issues and they didn't like some things and they took off, and then they kind of have that, they don't realize how much it's changed in 3 years, and that all of those things have been resolved.
That's a good point. One big example of that is we at some point got a lower credit card rate, right? And so we upgraded the monthly plans that we have. And a lot of people still think like, oh, dumpling's so expensive, right? Because they have our old rates in mind. And so that's something that we're always trying to make sure is front and center. Like, this is what the current situation is. It's a better offering. We've learned, we've evolved. And then, obviously not everything we do is going to make every single person happy. But like you said, we at least try to listen to their feedback and be guided by that. Which, of course, I'm not the only one on the team who's done this work. There are several of us. And so you can't make a decision without hearing what shoppers would think of that, because half of us are able to kind of speak on that behalf, which is really nice.
Right. What do you see happening with Dumpling and changing with them in the near future?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing we've seen is we used to just be kind of this alternative to Instacart, right? It was about workers just taking their work back. And that was kind of our whole marketing spiel. And now it's a lot more of a space for the professional shopper who really cares to do this well and to have repeat business. And so since we've made that shift, that's kind of opened the door for us on some new features. Someone who's busy is more likely to need automated messages, right? And so just knowing that we're kind of continuing down that path of really trying to be the right space for those people who really take it seriously. They really want to make it their sort of their income, right? We do have some people that do it around another job or around school, but still people that take it very seriously. Whereas before we had a lot of people who didn't always transition from the gig worker mindset to the business owner mindset.
Right. I think that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't have that motivation. That's just not who they are at their core. And if it's not who you are, it's not who you are.
I think even if it is who you are, if you've never been trained on what that looks like, it's confusing, right? It's
true.
Like you wouldn't know to think about things like marketing your business because you've just never had to. And so that's something where we try to meet in the middle with our courses and
all of the different avenues of social media and how important that is, and trying to mix that up. And I mean, it's such a crazy world today with all of the social media stuff that we have to do and try and get the message out that way. And I think a lot of it comes down to educating people, because people haven't heard of Dumpling, and that's, if they haven't heard of it, they don't know they have an option. They don't know they have a better choice to Instacart and Shipt, So I think that's just getting that part out.
Yeah, it's kind of on purpose a little bit, right? Because customers don't hear about Dumpling. They hear about Holly, the lady in their neighborhood who can bring them groceries, right? And so when they're spreading the word, they're talking about Holly. Dumpling is just the app they use in the payment processor to a lot of them.
That's true.
Really sold on like the person, which is what you want. You want, that's a customer for life, someone that only cares about you. And but within that, of course, that means there's less visibility for Dumpling because everyone is their own branding and their own sort of like customer relationships. So individual people can grow their business pretty well because they're talking about themselves. They're not necessarily talking about Dumpling as much. But for people that are entrepreneurs, yeah, then there's kind of this gap where they're like, where is it? I don't know what that is. I don't understand. Or they're finding reviews about Dumpling from a year or two ago, right? That might not be current. And so we're, of course, trying to put together information to kind of showcase that. But we're a small team. It takes us some time to get it out there. So that's why I'm so excited that you guys do this show and just answer questions for people.
Right. Well, we just want to get it out there and, let people understand that, you have a choice. You don't have to bow to Instacart or DoorDash or whoever else it is. But it is advantageous to continue to work those apps while you're building your business, as you know, because you use those customers to market to. I mean, it's the best place to find customers. You're delivering to somebody, you're an independent contractor. You own your own business and you can do whatever you want to do as soon as you click, I've delivered. So after you deliver, you can give them a flyer. You can talk about whatever. And
that's how a lot of people hear about Dumpling, actually, is there have been people
I've got quite a few customers that way.
Yeah. Or their customers will say, hey, you told me I can't get you every time last time you were here. I looked it up. There's this thing. Sign up for it. We've had people sign up that way. But typically that's a good indicator that you could be a good fit for it. If a customer is saying your experience is different than all the other shoppers who I've just sort of gambled and had come to my house, that's kind of an indicator that maybe you could give them a better service if you were out on your own.
Right. I rewrote my blurb on my page, on the Dumpling page the other day, and it really got very long because I started talking about, because if I'm telling them about me or whatever, I want to reiterate what the differences are between me and Instacart. Hey, it's going to be me every time. You're not just randomly going to get some shopper who's trying to hurry through their shop because they want to get to the next one. I'm not taking more than one order at a time. If I've got you that time, I only have you. I don't have three. I'm not trying to rush through because Instacart's telling me to. You're paying in-store prices. You're not getting 10 to 30% markup on every item you buy. I mean, it's just, it's just so advantageous for the customer too.
It is. And it's almost hard to talk about when you're so excited about it because we know 100 things, right? So like which 5 things are different to them?
That's why my thing got so long. Instacart, you drop off the order and you hit complete. The lady goes in her kitchen and she's like, oh my gosh, where are my chocolate chips that I ordered? Well, she can't call anybody. The communication's cut off after they deliver. The shopper can't reach you. The customer can't reach the shopper on Instacart. And I'm not sure about Shipt. I've never done Shipt. So that's why I refer to Instacart all the time. But with me, if she finds she's missing something in 10 minutes or 2 hours or at midnight, she can reach me. So that's another really good thing for the clients.
It's so interesting that you bring that up too, because we make mistakes, right? I still make mistakes and I've been in business since 2019. It happens. But being able to just make that right on my own is so empowering to me. And it's better for customers. They don't have to sit on hold for an hour to get a refund for an item that they still need. They don't, have this whole hassle. They can just be like, hey, Ashley, I thought I ordered chocolate chips. And I can go, oh my gosh, you're right. They fell under the seat of my car. I'll be right back and bring them to you. Or I can pick up another one.
And that happened to me before. It happened to me actually the other day. There was a bottle of white vinegar in my trunk and it was the next day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to give her a white vinegar. So I immediately messaged her and I'm like, hey, I forgot this. I'm so sorry. I'll bring it back out. It was people on vacation. And there were a couple other things that she had asked me to get for her when I was at the store, but I had already left. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm already on my way. And she's like, oh, no big deal. I just thought I would see if I could catch you if you were still there. And so when I took her the vinegar, I stopped at the store and I grabbed the blueberry coffee and the mustard that she wanted. I paid for it since I forgot the vinegar. I'm like, this is just something I do because I like to take care of people, So I grabbed those extra things. I went and dropped it off. And, she's like, oh my gosh, I probably wouldn't have even realized that you'd forgotten the vinegar. I didn't even realize it. So, hey, we have a charming gentleman who's about to join us.
Perfect.
Steve has found a way to he's figured out the link. I don't know what happened, but here he is. Let's see. We're gonna kick from studio. Let's see. Add to stream. Let's add Steve in. All right, Steve, welcome. This is my co-host, Steve, Rideshare Rodeo, everybody that doesn't know Steve. And I don't know, Steve was having more technical difficulty than I was today.
Yeah, I liked your try help. Try studio or StreamYard
help. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been on StreamYard for a couple years. I don't know what was happening, but I tried different computer, different browser. I don't know what launched. It also looked different when it came through. So I don't know. Maybe it was like an update they did. I don't know, and it doesn't like my browser. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to go through because if that's the new StreamYard link, I don't know what's going on. But hi.
Hello.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, Holly.
So I don't know if you were able to hear what we were saying, but we were talking about the difference when you make a mistake and you can just fix it for a customer. That is a huge thing for customers too, right? Because they don't want to sit on hold for an hour. They just want to like have someone make it right. And it's before they've negative reviewed or like 1-starred you that you're able to make it right. And then they talk about that positively. We see reviews come through where they're like, they made it right and they're happy about it. It's like a mistake is no longer such a bad thing. But on Instacart, you don't know until you get that bad rating come in. And you're like, now there's nothing I can do to fix that. I'm not allowed to go back to their house. I'm not allowed to contact them.
Well, because if the client realizes that they're missing something, they can't call you and say, hey, I'm missing this, or the other big thing too, that I do now is if they send an order in for Publix and they've got, a lot of items on there and there's a lot of things that are out of stock that aren't easily substituted, with very, very similar something. I normally will go to 2 or 3 stores. I start usually the one wherever I'm closest to, and I kind of work my way to their house, because I'm like, there's a Publix on every corner. So that way I can get everything that they want. And, the cold things, obviously I hold off till the end, but I do have my insulated bags with ice packs in them. So even those things are fine. So it's,
I would say this too, that look with Instacart, if I don't use Instacart.
Really?
on either side. But especially like even especially on the shopper side, on the client side. I don't use it on the client side. So I often try and put myself in that position. What would it be like if I got 2/3 of my groceries right, 1/3 or half of the other third was replaced items and the other half a third just didn't show up? Who am I going to be mad at? Whoever I can be mad at.
Right.
Most people. Now, I'm not going to be an angry person, but most people are just they need somebody to be mad at. And Instacart doesn't allow you that privilege to be mad at them.
Yeah.
It's, it's instant deflection. And like I heard Holly saying, like, you don't even know if you're getting somebody in this country who knows what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So instantly that becomes, the shopper didn't do a good job.
Let me answer a question real quick in the chat. Candy asked if you can get the same shopper through Dumpling, even though I've tried to explain this to her many, many, many times. Anyway, you're not hiring Dumpling. You're hiring Savvy Shopper. And so, yes, you're going to have the same shopper every time, because what Dumpling is Dumpling provides, look, I write this down because you guys say it so well. I like that. Dumpling makes small business ownership available to anyone who wants it by providing the tools that empower anyone to start, run, and grow their own local service-based business. So basically, Dumpling is providing the technology, they're providing the financing and taking care of all of that for me. But other than that, when you are placing an order, you always get your shopper that you've hired, your company. In my case, Savvy Shopper in Sarasota. So, or Steve, and
Well, that was gonna be my example. If I was in Holly's market, so there's a perfect example. If Holly and I price ourselves out differently, there is no way to even get you another shopper. So of course you're using Holly, because otherwise you would have to go to the Dumpling site and be searching for a whole new shopper. Because again, it's inverted. It's not, hey, enter your order and we'll find you a shopper. It's go find your shopper
Yeah.
and then come to terms with them and work with that person.
Right. And Candy, if you don't like the shopper that you get, then you can go back on people that don't say they haven't gotten a card from me or whatever, and they've just heard about Dumpling. You can go on there and you can search by zip code, and then whatever shoppers are available in your area should pop up. And then you can choose from that. And if you don't like the first shopper, you just don't click with that person, you know, maybe you're just totally different and they're just not getting your weirdness or whatever, then you don't have to order from them again. You can go back in, put your zip code in again, and pick another shopper. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not like you're stuck with the first one either. So it's just that once you find one you like, then that's your person. And you really build relationships between the shopper and the client too. You know, it leads to other jobs, you know,
And
hey.
you can mold your shopper too. Like if Holly's your shopper and you want some extra things from her, it's not like you're making Holly do things she doesn't want to do. You're just you might be telling her things that you need. Hey, would you be able to do this stuff too? Let her sort through that and see if there's a way that makes sense for her to, I can handle all that.
Yeah.
Right. You're basically just hiring a local small business instead of Instacart.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're doing business with somebody you've actually made a connection with.
Right. And we can do anything.
And from there you can build it into whatever you want.
Right. And like I said, I can go to 3 Publix on my way to your house to make sure that you have everything you want, because with Instacart, you know, if they don't have it, the shopper cannot switch stores. But I can go to CVS and Walgreens and, you know, wherever I need to go to get what you need.
That was a big thing in the pandemic, right? With outages of toilet paper and hand soap and all of those things. Someone could just try a different store, or they could say, hey, I actually know what store has better inventory of that. So don't put in your Instacart order to this Safeway. Let me go run to, in my case, it was Big Lots randomly, but they'll have that in stock and we'll just start your order there. And yes, I did see a question on, can you reject clients? Yes. So essentially, you just gently fire them. You can just say, you know, whatever you want to say, like, you know, I'm no longer serving your neighborhood, whatever you want to tell them. But the shoppers get to pick too. If there's someone they don't like, they're not forced to work with that person. That person can't just go leave sneaky orders with them. And then, yeah, if you want them to do something different, you can just say, hey, I really liked working with you. Do you also do this? Sometimes they'll say, yes, I do. Sometimes they'll say, I've never thought about that, but let me think about it and get back to you. You know, let me research it.
Hey, I'm not going to be home when you bring my groceries today. Do you mind bringing the stuff in and putting my cold stuff in the fridge for me? And would you mind running my dog out just so we can, you know, pee for 5 minutes in the backyard too while you're there?
But it's probably, is it not? I mean, it's probably important. It's probably important to mention too that you shouldn't include dumpling if you're turning down a client or something. Don't use the word dumpling. Oh, I'm not. I don't want to take you as a client. Like, make sure you're making yourself separate of dumpling if you're deciding to go that route, because dumpling still wants the client.
I mean, so it kind of depends, right? If this is a client who's just like abusive and awful, I might not give them to the shopper down the road either. I might try to push them back.
Is that happening a lot? I mean,
not often, but occasionally there are people who are just better fit for the gig model than a personal shopper. They want things immediately or free or just unrealistic, or they're demanding. Those kind of people, I won't burden them with another shopper. But if it's someone that I just don't mesh well with, I can even help them. Like, hey, this person is a little closer to you. They might
exactly, like those kind of things.
Point them that way. So yeah, it depends on the situation.
You know, like I'm on East Denver. If somebody in Lakewood or Golden was like, hey, I really like your profile, I don't know a dumpling shopper over in Golden, but I might even go out of my way to look for one for them.
Mm-hmm.
And make that contact myself first, just so that I know another dumpling shopper, and say, hey, I got this person who was referred to me, because now I got a friend doing the business who might do the same thing back to me.
Yeah.
You know, and say, hey, I got a guy on the East Side who can service you.
Well, and in some situations, I've even said, hey, there's no one else in the area right now. I'm happy to encompass your area, but let's touch back in a couple months and see if there is someone who has started in your area, and then we can go from there. When I started, there's been a range of who's on the geo search where I am. Sometimes it's nobody, sometimes it's 10
Give me
people.
1 second.
Okay. But in that instance, I can just sort of change my zone as need be,
Right.
depending on what's available at the time. So
I've noticed that, like, even if I just, and I think I even like this, I'm not sure, but when I go to the dumpling.us and I'm searching for somebody and I put in the zip code, there's a lot less people. And I don't think there's less dumpling shoppers. I think you guys have started weeding out inactive accounts, maybe, and that makes total sense, because why would you want somebody who's just about to bite on the dumpling platform to call 2 or 3 dead accounts and go, what's going on with this thing? Is it even around? Because I know that now you do like, there's some actual criteria of make sure that you've got to shop in 30 days or 60 days, or
They get dropped off that marketplace pretty quick if they're not active.
which
Or if they haven't
I
done
honestly
onboarding in
think
the
should have maybe, I'm not going to go back in history, but maybe should have just been from the get-go with dumpling, because that probably has multiple times come up to hurt them, because I remember searching this area code before and there was like 100. And now I wonder, out of those 100, how many would have really been active if I would have called them.
There were 10 in my zip code when I matter of fact, I went back and I had it written down in a notebook, and there were actually 10 in my zip code when I started, and I'm the only one right now.
It's funny you say that, because sometimes it's that they don't meet the requirements, which it refreshes every 30 days. So if you look in your area and there's not someone there, try again in a couple weeks. But the other part of that is, like, I'm not listed on it on purpose because I can't take in that many clients. My business is still active. I can do referrals. If someone posts in a Facebook group near me, hey, I need this, I can decide if I can offer myself up. But I don't use the marketplace just because I wouldn't be able to serve those people and work full time. So
and that could be the case too. But as far as new people looking for someone, I'm the only one they see.
Yeah, exactly. And
but when you say marketplace, those come in and it's not a forced hand to Holly or I.
Correct.
We don't have to take that client. It's just a new client available.
So with the marketplace, essentially, right, when it started, it just kind of listed everyone in the area, whether they were active or not, like you're talking about. And that was hard for people. Like, hey, I texted this person, I put in an order, they never replied.
Yeah, because that looks bad, because then they're like, well, is this going to be the service I get? Then who wants to stay here? Yeah,
exactly.
I think your criteria is right on market.
It was built kind of to be a balance, right? Because that's the one part of the platform that's for everybody and it impacts everybody. And so it's the one spot we have to be a little more heavy-handed and kind of make sure that it's fair for the majority, because you don't want someone brand new who's really working their butt off to not be prioritized there because someone who used to be active a long time ago shows up, right? You definitely want the person who is wanting to take in new clients to get those leads, because otherwise you just lose leads left and right, and that hurts all the shoppers. And so that's why we do have some standards there as far as, like, go through the courses, know how to use the app, do an order every 30 days. It can be an order for yourself if you need to, but just really knowing how to use the current app with the current features, showing that you're available, having your schedule open, things like that, because otherwise it burns a client bridge, right? If they're trying to connect with you and there's some sort of friction there, and that kind of hurts everybody. So it's definitely something that has evolved over time. And I think it's in a really good spot now. We've been in spots where we weren't heavy-handed enough, and other times we were too heavy-handed. I think we've reached a really good balance, which is a lot of that is based off feedback from shoppers. But it's something now too, where we always tell people the marketplace is like cherries on top. So you're marketing your business on your own, right? You're getting people from flyers or Facebook groups, word of mouth. And then if you get some marketplace leads, those are like a cherry on top. And so we tell people, don't just count on them. And that helps people really put in the work and stay active in their business.
And that's where Steve and I differ a lot, because Steve is all about word of mouth, and he gets everybody from word of mouth, where I've gotten more from, well, my own word of mouth and the marketplace. I do get quite a few from the marketplace, and from social media, because I advertise on the sites for Siesta Key and Anna Maria, that I do vacation delivery and stuff. But I don't know. I think it is just different for everybody, and maybe what market they're in.
Yes. Yeah. Areas like Florida are just a lot more populated, right, for customers and shoppers. And then, areas like LA, California, kind of similar situation, right? But yeah, it basically the way that we tell people is just the marketplace is just an extra. And then if people are seeing like, wait, I was on the marketplace and now I'm not, I don't know why, I can't remember the things, just write in and we can look it up for them and get them situated.
And Steve, did you finish your stuff you were supposed to do, your onboarding, your university?
No, because you didn't do it either, Holly. You
Guess
just
what?
gotta
I did.
Did
I
you
did.
really?
Ashley looked it up and she said I did do it. It's
Oh.
changed.
Just didn't remember doing it. Yeah.
But I did do it. She's like, make sure you
But
tell
you
Steve
didn't.
you
Did you go back and do it again?
No, I didn't go back and do it.
I'll kind of break this down for anyone listening. So our university is free courses, but they're behind a login. So you have to have an actual Dumpling account to use it. But the first section of courses is called onboarding. And this is how to use the app, what Dumpling policies are, just to kind of get you familiar with us versus other options, and get you all set up. Then we have other courses that we call Promote Your Business. And these are primarily myself and the other coach, Sarah, have driven a lot of these. And these are based on like helping people, okay, here's how to talk about your business. Here's how to use social media for your business, things like that. The onboarding ones, we require those because it helps people know what they're doing. The Promote Your Business, we don't. But people have actually given us really good feedback on the courses. Some people even go back and visit them like over and over again.
I do go back and I look at things if I have a question about, like I had a question about the taxes and like what form you guys send out and stuff. So I went and looked that up. So it's not like I never go there. I do. I just haven't gone back to the onboarding ones. But yeah,
Look,
I definitely
can we just be honest here? The three of us are all very busy people, right? We all have kids, different ages. We all have families. We all have crazy schedules.
Dogs you have to get up and let out.
So look, I'm guessing Ashley's just being nice and she doesn't want to embarrass me, but I'm guessing that what I need to do is probably 15, 20 minutes worth of my time. But it does add up, and I'm always trying to find that 15, 20 minutes. And, then I forget that it's one of those things. And I do have a list, and I stay pretty darn organized throughout my week. But to be honest, it's hard to slip something in. But I mean, it makes me want to do it like right now, because I wonder if like I'd have it done by the end of the show.
So I looked at your account. I won't talk about your account without explicit permission since we're live. But essentially, do you want me to tell you?
I think I'm okay for, I'm a transparent guy. So
I won't like dox for you.
Don't bash me, but yeah.
So essentially I looked at a couple different things on yours, and one of them is that what's holding you off of the marketplace? Because I know you had asked that on a previous show. So it is the courses, which to be honest, I think would be less than an hour of your time if you took a long time to do them. Pausing, getting up, that sort of thing. We created those because previously what we had was a Zoom meeting where we would onboard people and teach them. And because we're a small staff, we could only offer a couple different time slots a week. And so there were people that had other commitments and they're like, I can't make that hour. I just can't figure that out. I can't focus during that hour. So the whole point of us doing that was like, well, now you can do it at 3 a.m. if you want to, whatever works for you. It's a way to kind of get that support while we're sleeping or while we're helping other business owners. And it obviously has gone through some iterations as well as things have changed, but it does talk about things like the marketplace requirements and kind of explains those. And so those sort of policy things that people tend to be like confused on, we have right in the courses, because it's sometimes easier to digest that way. So it's video, written, and then it also has captions. And that's for all of our courses have captions now. So if anyone tried to access them previously, go back. But yeah, that's essentially why it's created. So I think if you did that one, you would be available for Marketplace, right? Which could get you some more leads, help build business for you. But the other thing is it could help. What we hear from people is that it helps them like know how to talk about their business and kind of keep the ball rolling. And then like, oh, maybe I should price differently because this is what they're recommending. This is why.
Yeah, and
Or,
that's something I really do want to know because I
think you continually tweak.
Well, so here's my thing though. I'm wondering if Ashley has seen patterns in different markets like yours, Holly, might always be a solid 25% plus tip, or I don't know, but maybe she's seen in Denver, hey, there's a lot better luck if you go 15.
Do you see that? Do you see that different areas have different pricing that kind of works for them?
A little bit. Typically what we see, there's kind of a range, right? 15 is what we recommend as a starting point. But
right, because you say don't go over 25 on the suggested period. So if you're going to add 10% tip, 15% groceries.
What tip they want to add. I mean, we're not
so
forcing anybody to add anything for tip.
Well, but there was something in there. I can't remember where it was that just said, when you do go above it, it doesn't say wrong. Right. It just says you've gone into the zone.
Right. That when you're setting your pricing, it'll do that. But
yeah.
The reason for that is because let's say you're charging 35%. At this point, you might be above like the Instacart price markups. And at that point, you can do that. If your time is worth that, you can absolutely do that. But you might have a few customers or people who order when they need to versus like regulars. And so
I'll be honest, I don't push that. Hey, I'm cheaper than Instacart. I don't push that because I'm probably not with my pricing. I may not be.
Well, you're not after tips.
Your products are cheaper because you're not paying the markup. So it depends on how big your order is on if I am or not. What they choose to tip or choose not to tip, that's completely up to them. They don't have to tip. And I've kind of built my pricing because I protect myself from small orders.
Yeah.
I don't want to go waste, an hour or two to make $15. I'm not doing it.
I mean, gas here.
But you can just have your minimum be 25.
Mm-hmm.
You could say I'm charging 15%, but I'm $30 minimum, period, even if you just want a thing of milk.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason for that being, right, is I'm not going to leave my house at $4.50 a gallon to go do this little tiny order. If you want me to do a little order on top of someone else's, that might be a different conversation. If you want me to do a couple errands for you at once, that's a different situation.
Right.
But it's not worth either time, right, for me to just go all over for peanuts. It's not good for either of us. And so I have mine at 15 right now. But I was at 18 for a while when I dealt with that more, just to kind of deter those small orders. But I love the percentage. I was hesitant to do it when we came out with it for a long time. I really liked my flat rate. But I saw that if I'm doing a huge order, it's a lot more work to do a huge order. You should get paid more, right?
Did we ever clarify about the multiple locations too? Remember, Holly, when we were talking about we need to talk about this?
Well, it's not really that you have to clarify. It's up to you on how you want to do it. I personally, if I have a client that I do this regularly for, she has me go to Publix, and then she may have me pick up some bagels at Panera or Einstein Bagels for, some other small errand with her groceries.
Sure.
So I take my delivery only price of picking that up and I slice it in half, and I usually only charge her 10.
So you're giving her a discount after.
Yes, I'm putting the adjustment on there and I'm marking her down $10. So she's only paying 10 instead of 20 for that second stop. Now, when I talk about that, I'm going to 2 or 3 Publix, or I may even run in CVS across the street because, hey, I'm pretty sure they have these Kleenex and I can't find this Kleenex brand anywhere. Now, when I'm doing that, I'm not charging them anything because that's just something that I do to provide good customer service. I'm trying to get
Sure.
everything on your list that benefits them. It benefits me because obviously the more I get for them, the more money I make too. So
Okay, so a brand of Kleenex like that, are you buying that on your card?
no. Everything
Are you
goes on the
still
boss
doing it?
card.
Okay, you're still doing
No,
it on
I
theirs.
will
They're just
leave my
taking all the
order.
fees
Yeah,
off.
I leave everything open. I just leave the order open. I don't close it out until I'm done. I've got the receipts in there, and then I process my invoice. Did we lose Ashley? She went
Yeah.
dark, and I thought maybe she paused herself for a minute, and now she's gone. So I'm sure she'll probably pop back in here with her.
But yeah, but I was curious about that, like the default landing of that. I thought we were still in question about that too. Like if somebody sends me to 3 stores, are they getting my 20%, but
Well,
a
that's
minimum $20 per 100? So if they send me to 3 places, is that a minimum $60?
that it's your business. That
Right, but
has
is
there's
that like
nobody
something?
setting that up to say you have to do one thing or another. I'm just telling you
Right, because
that's what I do.
each store you set up, let's say that you set up each store as, let's say you set up each store, perfect timing, Ashley, because let's say you set up each store as like I got King Supers, I got PetSmart, and I got, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I
So
understand that.
Sprouts.
My
Okay,
my
but then they
girl,
say
she'll put in
I need this from this from this, and let's say
right.
they're all right around 100. Let's say the groceries are at 200, the pet store is at 60, and Sprouts is at 100. I mean, is that by default going to go to the percentage that I set for each of those stores? So I'm going to get a
It depends
minimal,
on
like if
what
I say
you're
20% plus a minimal 25, is that going to be a $75 order that then I can retract back upon, or is that
I see
something
what you're
that
saying. If
gets
you're
worked out
saying
when
that
it's
if your minimum is $15 or 15% for the store, and that second errand isn't just a flat fee thing like I have been doing, like mine's
yes.
a Panera Bread, so it's always a flat fee thing. So if they're going over your minimum and they're getting into being a percentage sale, how should you work that is what you're
Right, and
asking.
you did it all in an hour. Let's say you somehow just banged out the store. You got in, you got the dog food.
They were all
you got
expensive errands.
boom, 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 boom. Here, now it's
Good
delivered
question.
$75 because my minimum is it's 20% or it's $25 per store. So it's, let's say, I'm just using examples, but is that $75 how it just auto bills, Ashley, or is there strategy to this? Is there a way that you tell people to handle this stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sorry about the interruption. My device was unplugged. So our Monday of tech issues is continuing. And then I've got someone over here unplugging stuff again. Joys of working from home with all the pets. But as far as doing multiple stores, there's a couple different ways I tell people. So if this is a new client that you don't know, you're going to want to have them do a couple orders. And that's just to mitigate any fraud risks. You can charge them out in the store. But if this is a customer you know well, and they're like, run all these errands, just put all the receipts on that same order. And then what happens is it will calculate off of all of those. So you wouldn't need to charge them another delivery fee because it's already going off per item, right? That puts you above the 100. If they're, or, depending on what, for me, it's 100 at 15%, right? But if they're getting hit with individual delivery fees, what I do is I'll discount the second or third one because they already paid a delivery fee.
Sure.
And just kind of let them know, like, hey, I'll adjust this on the end. It'll look a little bit differently. And just make sure that they know that.
That's what I do too. And that's what I was saying is but mine have all been flat fees. And his question is if all the orders for each store have gone above the fee and now they're into a percentage, how does he adjust the percentage? I mean, he can still give a certain dollar amount off, but I mean, where do you suggest?
That's a good point. So if let's say all 3 orders, right? You're attaching them to all 3 and they're all into your percentage, I would just leave them because at that point they're paying per item like they would normally do on your percentage. whether they're paying per item at PetSmart, they're paying per
Right.
item.
I see what you, as long as like the stores are all the same, like as long as you're pretty much setting your stores all the
Yep.
same, it's not going to matter because really, if they spend $400,
But if
I
I
want
feel
it.
like
That's true. That's true.
I typically just run it where if I feel like they're kind of being nickel and dime to fee, I'll just take some off. Just to keep it honest. They always make it up in the tips. They're always excited that I did that. But yeah, if I feel like, you're paying 3 deliveries for me to go do something that didn't take me long, I'll just take a delivery fee or 2 off. But again, this is clients I know, and they tip very well. I know that they're going to tip well. With a new client, I might talk about them ahead and just say, hey, just so you know, this is going to be a secondary fee to run to this 3rd store. And I don't charge a fee for everything, right? If I'm just doing a store or 2, or I offer to do a couple stores, I don't worry about it. But if they're asking me to do something that's outside of the normal realm of an order, they're asking me to go all the way across town for some other store, then I'll, hey, I'm going to add a few dollars to cover the gas for this. Is that okay to proceed? And then once they give me the okay, then I'll do it. If they say no, then I'll say I'm going to decline that extra service today.
So maybe I missed that portion of where, because I see where you can go in and you can, maybe I've never looked at it hard enough to see, but where you can take off money, is that where you can also add?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You can.
I've never added any. That's why I asked.
There's a minus or a plus sign there. And here's another thing that you might need to add money for. Let's say that on Saturday morning, you go down to the farmer's market and you're dealing with somebody who doesn't take cards at all. They only deal in cash. So you had to go pay cash for this corn at the farmer's market that she wanted. So you did that. So then you can put that on her order, or whatever else she has that you're getting at Publix or King Soopers. And you just add that on as plus whatever her corn was and add it right on there.
Quick tip for you on that, Holly. Anytime you're doing adjustments for a reimbursement, keep track of it, because the adjustment is always going to come in as your total earnings at the end of the year, and tax time is a headache. So if you are doing reimbursements, just keep track of it somewhere. It'll make your life a lot easier.
Well, when I go back into my orders, I see my note that I put in there, right? Yeah, because I always put in there why, like reimbursement for this, or VIP discount or whatever.
I keep a separate spreadsheet for those two. So at the end of the week, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I gotta put this in there, and then I have it. Just learn from my chaos that I didn't do that well to begin with, and it was chaos. But yeah, you can do that. The biggest thing that people get confused on with that is, okay, they were out of something at the store, so I have to discount them. You don't, because they're only paying what was on the store receipt on the belt. But people are so used to Instacart and Shipt where they have to essentially refund an item. So you've got to think about it like receipts is the boss card that you swiped, the credit card or virtual if you have a virtual card. Adjustments is your own earnings. So if you're giving them a $10 discount, that's essentially out of your business's pocket. If you're adding a fee, that's your earnings that you're impacting. And so that kind of helps people figure it out a little bit. It's like adjustment is me,
right?
Receipt is boss card.
Or even if you have a client that wants you walk their dog when you bring the groceries, you could add the adjustment there and say, okay, $15 because I spent a half hour with your dog, played with your dog or whatever. You can also, put that kind of thing in for an adjustment as well, Steve.
Okay, so that gets to a question that I know you had a set. I know you just did this, I think Monday or the Monday prior, about doing other services on Dumpling. Okay, so in that case, I do a lot of last mile, like curry stuff and stuff like that. And there's also I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but during the pandemic, there became a very big need for I'm drawing a blank on the name now. People who verify your signatures.
Oh, like a notary.
Notary, thank you.
Yeah,
and now around Denver, there's mobile notaries, which there was before too, but they're way more now. They actually go to businesses, they handle law firms.
There's signing agents that go beyond the notary and they do the legal contracts for real estate offices and stuff like that. Yeah, I've looked into that. I've thought about signing up for that too.
So if I wanted to be bonded to do last mile courier services as myself, not under these apps, and I wanted to do some of that too, some notary, how am I billing that in Dumpling?
So it depends, right? If they're saying, hey, bring my groceries and help me with this when you get here, I would just add it as an adjustment to the order. If they're wanting you to just do this thing without an order, you can have them do pick a store. It's a little clunky, or you can just, have them pay you however else you normally would.
Right. Like what if they want a grocery order once a month, but they need last mile services from me twice a week now. And they're like, wait a minute, you do that?
Yeah. It's kind of up to you there, right? You could decide on their next grocery order if you're going to back bill them for those, if you want to do that. But we do have people that do notary services, as well as waiting in line at the post office at the holidays, things like that.
Yeah, I've gone to the post office several times for people.
Yeah. And so usually what they do is they set a fee for that. So maybe for me to provide a notary service to come out is $10. But if you do it with a grocery order, I waive that fee. Right. And you can
Is it possible for Dumpling though to maybe just add, instead of it being, the store that we're picking, just a little box that says miscellaneous, and then we can fill in.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
We really need that, because we'd like to run everything through there, so it's all kept track through there with that customer. So if we could just have a miscellaneous, that would be so awesome.
It is on our wish list. I don't have any sort of time.
No, you can do it.
But it's definitely something that is on our wish list, and we have talked about trying to figure out before. It's just something
seems like it would be very easy that you would just set it up like specialty store. Instead of specialty store, it says miscellaneous.
Right, because specialty store doesn't need to be found. You can create it, and it might not even be real. I mean,
exactly.
I think some of it, right, ends up being, we want to make sure that people are legally protecting themselves, right? Because
this is why I'm asking you, how would you do this? Because
what I would do on that is I would follow your local jurisdiction, and if they want you to have a doing business as or an LLC or something of that nature, pursue that. It's essentially similar to being a gig worker in that you take all the risk, and this is something that Instacart and Shipt kind of keep below the belt, but essentially you take all the risk with them too. If you overserve someone alcohol, they get cut out of that in their terms, right? Mm-hmm. And so essentially we try our best to keep it simple enough that people have to put in the work to do those extra things, at least for now, because we don't have the capacity right now to figure out all 50 states, the insurance and licensing requirements. That said, people are their own business, and we're a set of tools that they use. So people do all sorts of things that I would consider risky.
I'm talking about me keeping it above the board legal.
Right.
I want to do all that, but I'm not optimizing like you said, a tool, optimizing the platform to that benefit.
Right.
And so as long as it's not something that's against our credit card terms of service, which would be cannabis or something like that.
Sex worker.
Anything that requires an ID is we restrict those, on that basis. But there are still people that are licensed to do those things, and they just essentially don't use our tool for them. So their business exists. We cover a lot of their business needs, but in occasions they use something else, and they just have to coach their clients on what they want them to do. And obviously, if anyone is considering that, do check your local laws. I would hate to hear of somebody getting in trouble. But there are people who have additional licensing, and they do different things like that. And so if it's something that is I walked your dog, you can use the adjustments. You can, anything like that in the app that you're able to do. Some people even set up a different store option and train their clients that that's what they mean and that's how to use it.
Actually, what I was just going to say to you is, Steve, what you could do is use that delivery only option and just tell your clients, hey, if you need a notary to come to your house, you hit delivery only. And I know that that's what you're wanting. And they can,
People have
they can
done-
put anything in the notes, but
I guess
People have done,
one of the main things is for everybody, I would imagine, is to keep in mind though that one of the key things that Ashley said is make sure that you're set up properly as you. This is not DoorDash not caring about you and leaving you for the wolves. This is Dumpling providing you a platform to do a service, but you're still your own. You need to do the research of what you're doing as business.
And so typically, some areas don't care for people just doing groceries, especially smaller things with just shoppers with customers that they know. That's the other thing to think about, right? Like if you're serving the same 20 people all the time and you know them, that's a pretty low risk and a pretty low fraud risk. But if you are serving, let's say vacationers, or you're really heavily marketing in your area, maybe you even have like a TV commercial or something, that's a different level of risk. And so usually what we recommend to people from there is just kind of get your ducks in a row before you go that route and make sure that it's something you are comfortable with. I know some people do rideshare, right? In certain states, rideshare insurance is incredibly expensive and has a lot more hurdles. And so we're always happy to help people see, like, try the county clerk's office, try the small business association, and at least point them in the right direction. But obviously, I'm not a lawyer and not an insurance rep and things like that. And so certain things, it ends up being like, here's our advice, but that's as far as we can go legally, right? But I've heard stories of shoppers, right, who have made these things work and they figured it out for their area to do it legally. And so it's kind of the sky's the limit. Just protect yourself, right? Because sometimes you have a car that you're making payments on or other things that are in your name. And we live in a world where some customers that tend to be great, but sometimes other people are just kind of scammers. That's how.
And it doesn't cost a lot to open an LLC. So I would recommend to everybody that does this that, put your business into an LLC so you are covered. And that if somebody comes after you, they can only come after your business assets. They can't come after your personal assets. At least that gives you some protection.
But don't scare them off at first, Holly. I mean, like,
No,
first they
no,
can try
I'm just-
Dumpling.
But I mean,
just
the
do
more
some
you,
Dumpling shops.
when you have a new customer versus, somebody you've been working with a long time, once you get to know that customer, you know what you can do and what you can't. I mean, but you should be covered no matter what. I mean, that's just smart business.
That's a good point too, Steve. I think for some people, they do like to have their ducks in a row right from the get-go. I personally recommend get your feet wet, try it for a while, make sure you like it, make sure it works for you.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying go get your LLC before you've delivered any
Right.
groceries. I'm saying, yeah.
Not a huge volume, but we've definitely seen where people come in and they're like, this isn't for me. Or I actually hate the business name I picked. I want to change it. Once you have that paperwork, that can be a little more difficult. And so I always give people that little bit of, obviously don't go do the moon unprotected, but at least make sure you like what you're doing before you dump a lot of money, because otherwise starting up should not be something that's a money dump for you. We've all seen people like start their own business where they lose thousands and thousands of dollars. We don't want that. So we even tell people, even with marketing, start with what's free before you ever pay for something. Then you can decide, do I need the paid thing or should I save up for that? But we always tell people, if you're going to pay for marketing, have it be something you can earn in an order or two. If it's more than that, sit on it. Think about it. Don't drop $600 on mailers and then they turn out to be ineffective, right?
Oh yeah, that'd be terrible. So speaking of business names, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why did Joel name this company Dumpling?
I have never.
Why did you pick something that was reflective of what the company was? So when people heard the name, they kind of understood.
My answer is a little bit pieced together of the answer I've gotten for years. So it doesn't quite roll off the tongue, but essentially dumpling is a food that's in every culture. It's typically a comfort food. And so that's where it came from. It's food related, it's comfort related, and there's one for everybody.
Comfort related. It should be named chocolate then.
Right.
Or maybe
And,
pizza
and it-
bread?
yeah, let's not, because
What is a
culture
dumpling? Never been a
related,
comfort food.
it's only in the US.
I mean, if you think about like right in Japan, and even if you talk about like a ravioli, so that was kind of the thing, is that every culture has some form of it. But past that, I don't quite know the answer. I've asked for a long time too.
It should have been like hamburger or.
I mean, I don't know. There just seem to be so many other options. And like, where did dumpling come from? There's got to be some story behind this.
It's so funny because yeah, we get asked that all the time, and I don't 100% know the story with confidence.
Just tell people it's Joel's dog's name.
I've met his dog.
That's not a bad answer.
But yeah, it's funny because you see that, right? If you're searching dumpling like on YouTube, if you're not
I know it's all food related. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go back to this thing where people are promoting themselves more than dumplings. So even the big dumpling stories that are out there, someone might not stumble upon when searching dumpling, because that's not what the news headline is for that shopper that was on the news, right? It's personal shopper or concierge service or whatever it may be. But yeah, I don't know. You'll have to take that one up with the company because I don't know a better answer.
All right. Well, listen, the adjustments on the orders, I have one more question on that.
Yeah,
Is there a $100 limit on adjustments on all orders? Or was that just one that I had? Okay.
Correct. And so that is with the Pro plan, which at this point, almost everyone is on. If you're on starter somehow still, it's $50. I believe I'd have to double check, but essentially the reason for that was so that people are not able to surprise fee their customers $300 out of nowhere. If it's something where it's over $100 adjustment, it might make more sense to get reimbursement from them directly anyway. So let's say you're doing 2 weeks of pet sitting. It might make sense for them to just give you a deposit and then pay you the rest at the end directly instead of trying to rope that into the app. But if it's something where you did $25 at the farmer's market.
I had that problem the other day because I had an adjustment that was $115 and I could only charge them $100 and they couldn't do anything about it. And the customer was on an airplane. And so I was, I didn't want to go back to them later. So I'm like, they got the discount
Yeah.
on the adjustment. So it was fine. Also, I read somewhere that clients receive a text after delivery about rating and reviewing. Does that still happen, or was that like something old I read?
So we do have that. Essentially, it's 30 minutes after you mark complete.
Okay.
And so what most of us do, right, we charge out in the store, they get the text, and then we drive to their house, and it's about half an hour. For new customers, sometimes they're like, what do you mean? You're not here. And so I always recommend when you're checking out, text them and say, hey, I'm heading out of the store. I should be there in about 45 minutes, whatever it is.
Right.
I'll see you soon. And then you can even let them know that extra bit about, I've charged out your order. I'm on my way, however you want to say that. But essentially what that does is it gives them the direct link to review the order or to go add a tip after, especially if they chose not to do one at the start. That way they don't have to go back through all their orders to find it. It just gives them the direct link.
So it's about 30 minutes, you say, that they get that? Okay.
Yep.
All right. I was just curious because I hadn't heard that before. And then I read it the other day and I was like, I wonder if they still do that or not. So
yeah.
And is there a cap on gratuity? Like how much can be added? Like DoorDash, say my order with DoorDash is $50. They put a cap on, you can only tip a certain percentage of your order total. Like one night, Pedro was doing a live one night, and he was trying to give this guy, it was, one of his, doing a delivery during his lives, and
Right.
the dasher was coming, and he didn't put a tip on the front end just to see if somebody would take it and if they'd wait for it, and he was doing a whole test thing. So then he was going to give the guy $40. Anyway, so he was trying to no, I take that back. That's not what it was. He was trying to put the $40 on before because people had put in for this tip and it was just like a surprise thing or something. Anyway, it wouldn't let him do it because it was over a certain percentage of his grocery. It was like, 95% of whatever his order was.
There is a cap, but I cannot remember what it is, but I know it was for, it's high enough now because we have people that do several $1,000 orders in some cases. And so, 25% of that is pretty hefty. And so I've only heard of it being run into maybe a handful of times the whole time I've worked here. And that's with those people that do, the $3,000 orders, things like that. So you'd have to write in to confirm the exact number because I don't even know what it is. But
are you talking about a cap against the total purchase?
No, just in general, it's like a dollar amount cap. So let's say they're trying to tip you $600 or something like that. It might hit that, but if you're trying to just add $100 tip, it will let you. I've had customers do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we know of people. I mean, Holly, you do too. You know people who take $20 worth of food and get $100 tip.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there is one in there just to
and during the holidays, somebody may want to tip you higher because something like that. But
I know it's something
just curious because the DoorDash,
if it comes up right into SOS, and then they should be able to help you. But
I doubt that it'll ever come up for me. I was just curious because of the whole watching Pedro do that thing and knowing that DoorDash had a limit on that and stuff. So I just
sometimes what happens is that customers, especially sometimes older customers on their devices, they mean to type 100 and they add a 0 or 2. So it definitely stops situations like that, which is very helpful. But yeah, generally speaking, I don't see people run into it often. And when they run into it, it's like, no, I really meant to do 25% for this order. And so they're able to resolve it. And I can't remember now what the number is. You've thrown a question I don't know the answer to. It finally happened.
I just said, you always have the answer. That's okay. You can let us know in the next Zoom call.
So, okay, can I ask one last question? I got one last one.
Yeah,
you might even hit it, Holly, when I was trying to get logged in here. But what is the team view on like the Krogers and stuff going to their new models of like, hey, $5.95 delivered today?
So
in store prices.
I've always kind of had the same opinion on this. I might be able to get a $7 to $15 delivery from Safeway or something, but I don't get to pick who it is. I might have to live within a small radius. And in some instances, there might be those inflated item fees. And then I'm just stuck to that store too. What if I need another errand? So
right, you're going to have some of the same issues you have now with Instacart.
Exactly. Or sometimes they even want a minimum. So maybe they want you to do $35 minimum, but they're out of a bunch of your stuff. You can't hit that 35. So typically, I think, I try to do free pickup every now and again when there's not another shopper in my area. And every time some headache happens. Every time, like with Kroger, I'm like, I need to change my pickup time. You can't reach a person. With stores like Safeway, you get all the way through, then they're like, oh, we don't have any slots available today. Or sometimes it's they're just out. No one's going to text you and say, do you want the other flavor? Every time I'm like, oh, I should have just gotten someone from the next area over and paid them extra to come here. Right. Every time I regret it. But I still like to do things like that sometimes because then I know what the difference is for me to customers and I can talk customers through it.
And maybe if the consumer just needs 4 or 5 things, I mean, we're not in the 4 or 5 things.
I see it as a win.
A certain amount of money and
I see it as a win for Dumpling. I see it as a huge loss for Instacart's why I asked.
Yeah.
I see Instacart getting pummeled by this.
And I mean, the same things happen, right? Where, I mean, I use Target pickup a lot. I like Target pickup. It's in-store prices. It's quick. It's great. But I've run into issues where it would have been better to use a person. Like their dollar section, that dollar spot, I think it's called Bullseye's Playground now, not available on the app, which frustrates me.
So hard to walk by that in the store. So hard.
And then I've had issues like Christmas. I had a child in my car and I needed a pickup for some gifts that were not from me. And I could not get them to bag it or not put the sticker on it because it was too big for a bag. I tried calling. No one would answer. I tried contacting support. I finally, at the end of this, ended up having to send someone else to go to the store and pick up for me and set up a whole nother customer account. It was such a pain because, my kid is big enough that if you roll up to the car with this in the cart, he's gonna know. And so just things like that where there's just not enough human interaction. So yeah, I use it all the time, but for things that are important, it doesn't ever work out. And I still end up having to go to another store for all the things that they were out of anyway. So that's
those shoppers, they're not checking expiration dates. They're not looking at your strawberries and your making sure your fruit's fresh and you're getting the freshest meat.
Oh yeah, I never do produce and pick up ever. I'm way too picky as a personal shopper myself to let anyone like that touch my produce.
That's why I don't order delivery of anything, because I do this for a living and I know I don't do it. I couldn't. I'm too.
I realized I must have stepped up a leg in the dumpling game because it stopped saying to me, make sure you reach to the back of the milk and get the newest one. It used to say that all the time to me.
It did? I've never had that say.
It said it every time to me. It like when I'd get to milk and I'd be like hitting it, say, make sure you reach in the back and get the newest one.
Wait, where did it say that when you were? Oh,
in
you
the
mean
shopping
Instacart?
app.
Are you talking about Instacart?
No, I don't do Instacart.
On Dumpling?
Yes, it would
I
say.
didn't even know if we had that. So
but it finally went away. I don't mind it. It was a good reminder.
It's funny because
I've never seen that.
If we had that, I didn't know that we had it.
Ashley, there's another thing for you to investigate.
Yeah.
I don't do other shopping apps, so that's all.
I know
done Instacart.
The video for like how to create an order, obviously I worked on that. So I know that we do have in video format how to do an order and check out. And it does talk about those things. We call them like our pro tips of, text the client on this. If they always, it just kind of has some of those sprinkled in.
No, this would be like when I would hit milk in the app.
But yeah, I don't
like saying like, okay, I've got it. We're
like
good.
You're marking it off.
Like I'm marking it off. Like I've got it. We're good. It's like, did you reach to the back and get the newest one? It would be like a little scream.
I think Joel might just be messing with you. I don't think anybody else has that in their app.
I haven't heard of it, so it's not getting.
I will tell you, the first couple times it happened, I'm really glad it did because I didn't do that, and then I looked and I was like, "Wait a minute, it's 3 days. You get an extra 3 days if I do that."
You always got to check the date. Yeah,
I know, but I'm saying it was a good
start.
Watch
the courses, Steve, because it's in the courses for you too, and it doesn't go away. The same.
Hey, when a customer places an order, what does it pre-authorize in their cart? Is it $20 still? Okay.
Yeah. So when they order, there's a $20 hold fee. Okay. If you cancel that order, it goes back to them. If you charge out the order, it goes back to them. The only time this really comes up is if someone is very low balance, and then you go to charge out their actual order, and they're like, "But you already charged me $20." There tends to be confusion there, but it doesn't come up often. Sometimes there's a little delay on their bank releasing it back to them too. So I would say same day. It happens on our end instantaneously, but we've had some times where they're like, it's still on there. It's the end of the day.
Yeah. My bank will take a couple days sometimes to do it. Yeah. I understand that. All right. And have you ever had it happen where somebody has a large grocery order, the shopper's checked out, they paid with the boss card, they go to hit the invoice, and it doesn't go through? And I understand that's happened for me, and they fixed it and it's been fine. But have you ever had it happen where the client couldn't fix it and they're standing there with $250 of groceries or something? What happens?
Yes. So that is why we recommend staying in the store to charge out, because especially during COVID, stores would be like, you left, we're not taking this return. But what they're able to do, since they're still at the store, is just walk over to customer service and get it put back on the boss card. And then we do have a fraud protection as well, that shoppers very rarely actually owe for any groceries when things like this happen. If they do, it was something like, oh, I dropped it at their house and left and then didn't charge them out for a day. Or, oh, I bought a bunch of things I wasn't supposed to. Or I ignored all these red flags and then I didn't work with Dumpling on it. it's always something pretty extreme if it's
Right.
not covered. But yeah, generally speaking, and that's part of what our fees go towards is having that fraud protection. But generally speaking, we just ask like, hey, as soon as something weird happens, write into us. We can guide you on where to go and then kind of figure it out from there. It doesn't happen often that they can't charge a customer out. Sometimes it's a matter of the customer just needs to switch cards. Sometimes it's a matter of, you know.
I mean, I had that this weekend. That's all.
Yeah. And so I usually tell people, reach out to us, wait at the store for a few minutes, try to reach the customer.
But I just wondered, you know, if that had actually happened where somebody had, you know, a lot of groceries and then it just wouldn't go through.
Yeah. It's definitely happened before where, you know, maybe their card was emptier than they thought, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, that's something that we deal with on SOS sometimes. But the biggest thing is just anything weird, just write in. You don't have to memorize all the things. We've memorized them. So just write in and we can look and see what's happening.
Wait, so Holly, are you saying like if they get the pre-auth charge of $20, but then they bought $100 worth of groceries, but they don't have $100?
Well, or 200, you know, their grocery order charged out for $250 and you're standing there with $250 worth of groceries. You've paid with the boss card and their card declines. The customer's card declines.
Right.
Then you've already paid for the groceries and you can't go deliver them because they can't get their card to clear. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought I had more money in there, but I don't. And there's nothing I can do to fix it.
Yeah.
I guess I always thought of the ghost charge was meant like, I'm good to go do the shop. And
so
if something happens, that might be a dumpling thing.
So essentially that hold fee is just to make sure it's a valid card. It's not expired. It's not prepaid, things like that, that it works. And so that's what the hold fee is. And then like, let's use Instacart for an example, right? If you want to order $300 from Instacart, they might put a $450 hold on your card. It's usually the order and then some. And then the same thing happens where they'll charge you the actual amount at the end. Unfortunately, large amounts like that pending for a couple days sometimes is very hindersome to people. So we keep ours very low, just enough to say, yeah, this is like a valid card. We can now have our fraud checks on it. Go ahead.
Well, you know, I found a couple other delivery services that do the islands around here because I was saying I didn't have anyone else on Dumpling, but I did find a couple that are not on Dumpling that do more of the, you know, island area and the vacationers. That's how I found them because I was doing some advertising on there and I was like, oh, look, there's a couple more. So I went to their websites and I read about them. And most of them were taking a $25 deposit when they made their order. And then if they canceled it within, you know, a short amount of time, they weren't getting that deposit back. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. I don't know.
I mean, sometimes what happens too is, you know, they've been a customer for a long time and their card expired, or sometimes just their bank flags it for some reason. So usually we can just on the SOS conversation, we can kind of work through here, try this, here, do this, have the customer call their bank, get it resolved, and then charge them out and then continue on with delivery. It's usually resolved pretty quickly, like under 10 minutes in a lot of cases. And so, yeah, usually it's not an actual, I don't have money decline. When it is an actual, I don't have money decline, you can choose to return some of the groceries, deliver them the rest. You can choose to return all of it.
Well, I hope we're never faced with that situation, but I did want to ask the question because I'm, like I said, even though it's not often, you never know who's going to see this. It might happen to. So
I feel like I would just decline the whole order. I don't mean to be mean. I even if the
customer, you've already paid
customer
for it,
of
so
mine,
you're just going to return it, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not gonna like go, which parts do you want me to keep? I'd more be like, hey, let me just cancel this. I'll take care of it. You get your, I wouldn't say this, but you get your financials squared away and then get back to me when you can get some food.
That's usually my feeling too, is unfortunately I'm not a instant whoever's coming to your door underpaid delivery service, right? Yeah. I have bills, I have taxes, I have gas, I have car maintenance and my time. And so I try to help customers as much as I can. I'll find them coupons. I'll use.
But that's a
store
little
links.
out of the reach of what you can do to help. I mean, if the
But
if
I'm
the
not a
problem
charity.
is money, and I don't mean to be mean, but the problem is money that they don't have it,
Yeah.
and they made an order not having it. I mean, I don't know what else
Yeah,
I can do for them.
there are extenuating circumstances because believe me, because I could totally see this happening to me. That's why I'm saying this.
Oh no, like maybe
Say
you have
that,
every
I
3
had it when I
months
made
a
the order,
payment
but then,
comes
oh my
out
God,
of
say it's
your
charged to you.
bank
I
for
totally forgot about it.
$1,500 and you forgot about it, and it fell on the day that your dumpling shop happened. I don't know.
And see, if it's a good customer, I'm a lot more lenient. But if it's someone who's just kind of wasted my time, I drove to the store, I did the shop for you on order one, you might not be the right fit for me. I might not be the right fit for you. Right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes a whole big difference. I'm talking about like a newer customer, not somebody that you're established with. That would be different.
But
that's like when you call them back and say, "Hey, have you tried Instacart?" I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I mean, in that sense, sometimes they can do EBT with parking lot pickup, things like that. But for me to pick it up, they would still have to pay my delivery fee for that. And that's with their normal card. And so in some instances, it's hard at first because you want to help everybody and you're in it to serve your community. But if you treat your business like a charity, you can't survive long-term to help people long-term.
Right.
So it's a hard boundary to set, but I'm very much, my clients have to pay me for my work. And if they can't, I don't serve them anymore. One or two times a bill came out, whatever, we get it resolved, no big deal. But if this is something where it's costing me a lot of time and it's taking away from my time with my other clients or my other job, sorry, I just kind of gently let them go. I don't ever get defensive or yell because they could comment on any post I ever make on social media. They could badmouth my business. So I don't ever put a bad feeling on it. Even if they're just the worst customer ever, I am very nice. I might even white lie and just like, so sorry, I don't do your neighborhood anymore, whatever it may be. But I just will not keep delivering to them if they are more pain than they are worth.
Fair enough.
How many active shoppers does Dumpling have on the platform now?
I don't know the current number right now. Actually, you stumped me again. But generally speaking, I would say probably in the few thousand range. I know we're all 50 states now and also have some business in like Virgin Islands, all the way Hawaii and Alaska. And I know that was a big deal for us, but I don't know the current number as well as the current number of like active doing orders currently. But yeah, it ebbs and flows, right? The same way that all the grocery apps do. Sometimes we have busting at the seams and sometimes it's just the people who really take it seriously. So I haven't looked in a little bit, but last time I did, it was a few thousand.
Gotcha. A couple.
And then what about dumpling customers? Do you know that number?
No, but
that's a little more hard to gauge because you've
got a lot higher
number. Is it on vacation?
Yeah,
or
any kind of number though, just something like.
I mean, if you think about the average dumpling shopper, right? They might serve 10 clients regularly. They might serve 45 clients regularly. So, yeah, it depends on the area and the shopper and how many hours they're doing that sort of thing, but a lot more than I could fathom, probably.
Right. So somewhere 10 to 45 times the amount of shoppers.
Probably, yeah, somewhere in there.
I have 86 clients listed on mine.
But yeah, it's definitely something that, like Holly said, sometimes people use it traveling, sometimes people use it regularly. And so again, then who do you count as a client? Someone who ordered once or someone who orders all the time? So yeah, I don't even know if I would even be able to pull those sort of numbers. So a lot, I would say for our active people, they serve a lot of customers, people that are really full-time, their businesses, their whole income, they serve a lot of customers. So the numbers climb, but some people are happy with 10 customers that they serve very regularly, very consistently. So it depends on
how often you're serving them. So, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
You guys need to add a chat AI bot in there that takes a handwritten list and then takes it to the store, makes it an order, and says, here's the total.
I will say we are working on some improvements right now to the list function, especially for stores that we don't have a catalog. So there's different
That's
iterations.
my biggest thing.
But yeah, it's definitely something that's being worked on right now. I don't know if it'll go from like a picture of a paper list to that, but it will at least be easier for paper list customers to use it. But as of right now, they only have to put one item in the cart. So they can put banana
Yeah.
and then text you the list, and you can still
Yeah.
shop their whole list.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely,
I did that last weekend with a big Winn-Dixie order.
yeah.
Yeah, but a chat AI could put it into here's produce. Here's
I mean, I'm not an engineer on how the chat function works.
I thought you didn't like now you want a robot to go and shop.
I hate robots. No, I just want the robot integration at a point where I can regulate it.
The other thing people are often surprised by, though, is that it saves their preferences. So if they've put in like
Yeah,
their
your
200
prior
regular
shops,
items,
yeah.
they don't have to keep doing that. They just have to put in the 3 new ones or whatever, which tends to help once customers are like order 3. And the other thing that helps by like order 3 is you kind of know their preferences, right? So why go back to Instacart when so-and-so already knows my kid's allergies and
Right.
what brand I like and what flavor.
I did have somebody ask me though, where they showed me their app and they said, okay, but why don't I just have a list? And I'm like, well, you do your prior orders. And they're like, but there isn't just a list. There isn't a list I make. And then every time that I can select from that list what I want off that list.
Yeah.
I said, that's a good idea. They should probably have that.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not sure what iteration we're in right now, but that's definitely a part of the testing and stuff that's happening now on improving the list experience. But a tip for you,
like my son and I, we're two
Yeah.
guys trying to fit. Like I'll say to him, "What do we need? Nothing." That's what he says every time. Nothing. We have everything. I go into the kitchen. We have nothing.
Yeah.
So what he meant was we have nothing, and now he also is saying we need nothing.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. So
One
then I gotta go back to. Okay.
I mean, so
like we need like a par list here at our house.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we like to have 2 milks on hand. Max, how many milks do we have? 1. Well, how many do you think we need? And again, he's 16 and a junior in high school. He can do this. So, but we need that because, and I think that's what people are talking about. Like, where's my personal list when I open it? Instead of like, oh, here's a prior order, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So there's a couple of things that help with this. One, use the app a lot yourself, all the time. I still do friendly orders for myself. I might cancel them. I might not actually go to the store. I might just close them out at 10 cents or whatever. But I do this so that I can know what it currently looks like. And that way, if a customer says something weird to me, I can decipher what they're trying to say and what their question is, because I can at least picture what they're talking about. And then I just look like really smart and they love it. Whether I actually know all that or not. And then the other thing is, if a customer ever says something like specific, like hey, I wish the app did this, or I got confused on this, send it in to us. Just kind of copy and paste it and put it in a message in the message center. We keep track of those, and that can definitely help in the future when we design things. Hey, this was confusing to people. Let's update this.
That reminds me. Is there some new news with Trader Joe's that I missed?
Yes.
Because somebody asked me the other day, they said, did you get the new email from Joel about Trader Joe's? And I said, no, what are you talking about? And I haven't heard. So Are they coming back?
So I have to answer this a certain way. So just be mindful of that. But essentially, this was not our decision. It's not one that we want to make for shoppers. We like shoppers having control of whatever they want to do in their business. That said, Trader Joe's has a very large legal presence, and they have continually come towards Dumpling and said, we don't want to be on your app. We don't want you to have our logos. We don't want you to have
that. We knew they pulled out, but
yeah, they've continued essentially. So they've continued, and to protect our legal standing and that of our shoppers, we finally just said, okay, we're going to comply with this. And so shoppers now can't do it on the app at all. Anything that's going through our payment system or could be like featured on our profiles on our apps is where we can't have it. So that could be adjustments or.
So are you telling me I can't use the boss card in there anymore?
Correct. So
wow. What is Trader Joe's problem? Do they not want to make money?
that I can't answer to. I don't necessarily agree.
I bet they have a deal with Instacart.
Money.
They previously did, and it didn't go well. So I don't think that's either,
I bet they have a deal with Instacart.
Steve, there's no way. You don't turn down orders. They don't give a shit who's delivering their groceries.
Clearly they do.
No,
it's not that. There's something else. There's something else.
But we haven't. It's hard because we, it doesn't matter what we see the value of something being, and we know how great our shoppers are and how much they care, and
they're not offering delivery.
We can't make someone else decide that. So that's the hard thing. I will say, on the flip side, shopping stores like Winco, they're great with personal shoppers and small businesses. So just kind of focus.
That is just
yeah,
really
but people that like Trader Joe's, they want Trader Joe's. Yeah. Period.
And that's just strange. Like Holly said, why would Trader Joe's even say,
that's ridiculous.
No, we don't want your kind in here.
We don't want your money.
Dumpling shopper. Get out. Like,
so yeah, I can't, I don't want to necessarily say my personal opinions on it.
I didn't get an email though, so I don't know where that information is.
So part of that is the email went out to people currently utilizing the store. So if anyone missed the email, we do have it that we can just send over in a message. So if someone
need it, because I have customers that I used to shop there all the time. They haven't been shopping there as much.
Will try to remember to send it to you, but if I forget, to just write in and ask for it, and we can get you that. But yeah, essentially.
I also want the name of the head of Trader Joe's, because I'd like to send them a letter and talk to them about it. I really would.
Yeah.
Yeah, or we could trick them to get on here, Holly, and tell them
we
want them on a live stream, not about dumpling. We just want to talk to them about Trader Joe's, and we'll just talk about dumpling the whole time.
I really want to know what their thinking is on it. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't to me either, but I do understand the point of making sure that our business owners are, protected as we can protect them. So that's the route we go. But yeah, who knows what that looks like in the future.
What were they going to do? Sue us if we came in and used the boss card?
The only thing I can think of is like if you had like 30% on your groceries and a minimum 20% tip, and I had 10% on my groceries and a 10% tip, and they were like, wait a minute, you guys have Instacart type model going here. Why is she 5 times as much shopping our groceries?
Right, but we're not marking up their product. It's only our service fee, and we're our own businesses. It's not, I don't know.
Yeah.
We could argue this all day, I'm sure.
I will say, typically when we talk to shoppers, right, one of the things a lot of shoppers do is they partner with local stores, where the local store advertises them. Exactly. They have a really good relationship. When we talk to people about that, we say prioritize like the mom and pop shops, because the shops that are partnered with Instacart and Shipt, it's above their head. It's corporate. Yeah. They don't have any say, but like a franchise grocery outlet or a local smaller shop, they really have the ability to kind of make those partnerships. And so when we tell people that, we just say, focus on those little ones in your area that people can't get delivered otherwise. And so kind of the same thing I would say in this.
And the orders are a lot smaller if you're dealing with its little tiny store too.
Yeah.
Usually, but maybe
but
not.
Yeah, if there's things like that where you really want to promote something heavily, that's where I would. It's something where you make it kind of that bigger impact on your community by offering it. That tends to get a lot of attention from local potential customers, from the store, things like that. But yeah, those big corporate ones, whether or not you want to offer them, whatever, but I don't make them as big of a focus when I talk to my customers. So my customers hear about like the small businesses, right? A lot more, or they'll hear about like Like pet stores, I don't talk about like Petco and PetSmart. They need me to go to Petco and PetSmart, absolutely. But I used to be a vet assistant, and I prefer the small stores. They have a better selection, they have good products, and so that's what I get my customers to do. And they love it because it's like two small businesses in one, right? They know the money they pay at the store is actually going to the store. So what I would say in that is just focus on those in the meantime too, and kind of have the positive come out of that. But yeah, that's the only one that is stubborn in that way. So
well, I don't understand it. I don't like it, and it's not your fault, but
yeah.
I won't. Nobody be surprised if I reach out to Trader Joe's. So.
Yeah. Or if I might go in with a live camera. Just say, hey, I'm a customer trying to find a dumpling shopper.
I will just say with a word of caution, they have a very, very heavy-handed legal team, and they are not above approaching shoppers directly. So part of our decision is making sure that you guys are not in the line of fire in that way too.
They can fire all they want. Nothing scares me.
So I would say just be mindful.
You know the nice me, Ashley.
Yes.
Like, I got a little Irish mafia in my blood. So
I would say
I feel like
don't worry about me, girl.
Holly and I are the ones you want to send in. Like,
I mean, I can't endorse whatever you guys do. So yeah, I would say kind of word of caution to anyone. Obviously, always make sure your business is protected first.
Take Holly and Steve with you.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with going into I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but is there anything, I mean, again, my business, is there anything wrong with going into Trader Joe's and saying, can I just ask what's the issue?
I will say, I don't know that a person at a local level would have a full answer for you either.
Or what if you go in and don't say you're with Dumpling and just, I'm Steve, I have my own grocery delivery business, and try and work something out with them on a local level? I wonder what then. Don't even mention it because it's doesn't. How do they? I don't know.
It sounds like they're just against it. That's what I'm getting from Ashley, is that they're just against personal. Maybe they've got something in the works coming, like Trader Joe's delivery, and we're not going to bow to anybody else. But
who knows? Yeah, I don't know those.
It almost doesn't sound worth the fight, but sometimes those are the fights that are best. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And I know, and it's not like I've been going to Trader Joe's every week. It just irritates me for somebody to tell me I can't do something.
Yeah.
Totally understand. Yes. That's why I love those small shops and like the Winco and the stores that are very positive minded in that way, because it's the opposite experience.
I just don't think we have I don't know. I'll have to look around, I guess. I don't know that we have a lot of little local owned types in this town, but
you'd be surprised. I mean, like, my mom's up in Boulder, and they fight for local all the time. Everything's got to be local up there. Is it local? Is it local? Like, that's like a term up there. If it's not local, like, most people don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, same in Seattle.
Well, I think smaller cities have more like a locally owned grocery store. Where I grew up, we had one that was a couple blocks down the road, and it was pretty. It was decent size for back then, but. Nowadays, I think if you see a locally owned something like that, it's more of a specialty, like it's a German or it's Italian.
Or butcher or something.
Oh, yeah. We've had people partner with the local butcher and like bakeries and things like that.
I've got a butcher 4 blocks from me that I see does no business. I mean, like, as far as that kind of stuff. Like, he has walk-in business, but there's no Instacart, there's no DoorDash, there's no service going to him.
Yeah, we have a course about that, Steve. It's not in the required section, but we do. If you ever want to go approach them and try to get them to market business with you, you could do that.
Ashley, I will go do my schooling when this is over, I promise.
I bet you next time you will have totally different questions if you do.
I'm gonna go do it all. I'm gonna become a master. I'm gonna finish the master's degree.
I tell you what, I will go through it again, just so I'm seeing the same things that you're seeing. Okay. To make you feel better, okay?
Yeah, that'll make me feel better. Thanks.
That's your homework. So there's a couple different sections when you go in there, Steve. There's the onboarding. That's the one that you got to do if you want to get on the marketplace. Okay. And then the promote your business is where there's like coaching type content, office
Are
hours.
they in like flow screens,
They're in sections, yeah.
or do you just kind of pick?
So it will drive you through in order, but
Okay.
if you want to go out of order, you can.
Okay.
And then there's also other sections like app updates, things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the two primary ones that we've put the most focus on. So,
All right, I'm gonna go crush it just so that I can come in with different questions and be like on a whole nother level next time we see Ashley. And she's like, "Oh my god, this is the same person!" Like,
I can check if you did. I can go look.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, we are on an hour and 45 minutes. So
right on an hour show.
probably wrap this. Yeah. And you were the one saying to me this week, hey, can we really try to stick to an hour from now on?
Mhm.
But I just want to say to everybody that Ashley is our first guest. And from here on out, that we are going to try to have a guest every 2 weeks with us, other shoppers, and maybe some other people from Dumpling. I think actually, if I don't know, you sent me the list of people you had for dates. I don't know if you've confirmed with those people or not.
The only one I confirmed is somebody we already talked about here. So is that Matthew Tells will be on next time with us. Matt is always a lot of fun.
All
He's
right,
a spark
great.
plug and dynamic. And
that will probably not be an hour show either. But yeah, Matthew, the grocery guy, he's been in this for a long time too. So that's great. He'll be here in 2 weeks. And
yeah, we have an interview with Matt on our YouTube channel too. And
I just watched it the other day.
my favorite thing is he just like cares so much about his customers. You wouldn't know like meeting him, but the reason his business does well is because he just loves those people like family and just cares about their experience. And it's I know him as like the gig activist who convinced me to sign up for Dumpling all those years ago.
Yeah.
But his customers see him as just like the kindest, most compassionate person. And so it's fun to hear him talk about his business because, he'll always doubt himself and say, well, I'm not as good at this. And it's like, buddy, I think you're really good at it. And you just don't know, Yeah. So yeah, he's a fun one. I will look forward to listening to that.
Yeah. I like Matt. I've talked to Matt a few times and always a good conversation.
He is brilliant. So it'll be a good show.
All right. One other thing that I want to add to our show now that we're going to have a guest, we are going to do a quick fire round of questions. I'm going to shoot questions at you, answer first thing off the top of your head, move on to the next thing. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. If you could do any job as a profession, pretending you magically have the education and talent for it, what would you be?
Prostitute.
Organizer and prostitute. Great. Great two answers. All right. There's a movie about your life. Who plays you?
Max. My son.
Oh, gosh.
Go ahead.
Maybe Mary Lambert. No one knows who she is, but she's this incredible singer from Seattle, and I love her.
We're all going to look her up now. Cats or dogs?
Both.
Okay. Least
Dogs.
favorite or worst job you ever had?
Oh, geez.
There's been so many.
The worst job I ever had was this job I had in high school. I worked at a kids' toy store, hair salon place, and they only hired like high schoolers so they could totally take advantage of them. Awful management. It was just the worst. It was like being thrown into customer service, but with like a very rich and entitled clientele. It was awful.
Nice. And if you could change one thing about Dumpling overnight, what would it be?
Oh, man.
The name.
Maybe if we had some sort of like magic power or like infinite money, so all the things we want to do like tomorrow.
Okay.
Instead of having to be patient.
And what is your dream vacation spot?
I like national parks a lot. That's usually where I go on vacation. I'm going to some next week, so I might have a different answer next week, but right now it's Zion because that's where I'm going.
I love
Where's
Zion.
that?
In Utah.
Southern Utah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Utah. I love Utah. Okay. And what's the strangest request you've ever had from a client?
Oh, I've had clients that I didn't really know very well ask me to watch their kids. I've nannied in the past, but not like that. It kind of threw me a bit.
They were really desperate. They didn't care who watched them as long as they could get out of the house, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Should viewers hit the thumbs up and subscribe to our channels?
Yes.
Yes. So everybody, if you haven't hit the thumbs up, please hit the thumbs up. All right. And your last question is, this is a hard one. You got me. I have to think of that. Dumpling or Instacart?
Dumpling. I invented the term the dumpling difference.
That's right. And I had that written down to say that. Yes. Ashley coined the dumpling difference phrase. So thank you for joining us, Ashley. It was a pleasure to have you. And
Thank
we will
you.
have you back again soon, I'm sure.
Perfect.
Thanks, Ashley.
Anything else you would like to add before we?
If there's any questions that someone has after we leave, they can reach me in the message center at Dumpling. If they don't have an account, that's available on our website too. So the help.dumpling.us, there's a little green chat bubble on the right. Just click that and then follow a prompt to contact a coach, and you will end up in my inbox, and I'm happy to help.
All right. Sounds great. And everybody, don't forget to subscribe also to Steve's channel, which is Rideshare Rodeo. And for all of your gig economy news, you can go to his website at ridesharerodeo.com. And he has everything about legislation, and anything you could possibly want to know about the gig economy is there. And I will put the link.
Holly just hit 700 subs, so we got to keep them going now. I just saw that today.
Yes. Need 300 more.
Yes. But you're in that zone that I've been talking about.
That's what you say. We'll see.
You're like in the tractor beam zone. Yeah.
We'll see. All right.
So,
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being patient with us while we had our technical difficulties at the beginning of this. And I have never, ever done a live from home, have I, Steve? I'm always in my car. But
no,
today,
I like this though.
But today I had nobody home because we did it earlier. And I'm like, wow, my son's at work.
This is
my
good.
husband's at work. And I was like, I can keep the dogs quiet because nobody will be here to be messing with them. So,
but then we had tech difficulties. So next time.
We had tech difficulties. And I'm not liking the lighting really either. The lighting of the camera's off. I got to mess with that. So I don't know. We'll see in 2 weeks.
You're good. Okay, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
Have a good day.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.